It's me again, Konstantin. So today we're gonna talk about in the video series about how to build a 100 billion revenue startup again. But the next topic, which is strategy. Okay, cut it short. How to win. Strategy. Too many. I can't hear it. Oh, strategy this, strategy that. Strategy is how to freaking win, and to win as a dominant player on a global scale. Everything else is just tactics. As Amazon puts it, the founder, Jeff Bezos, be sure about the strategy, be sure about the North Star, but be flexible about how you get there. The being flexible part, that's a tactic. The North Star is still winning. So I think most people don't understand that, and they get confused, and they go to MBAs and through MBAs, and they do their strategy session. They get like McKinsey people coming in, and that whole corporate aristocracy, as I say, corporate aristocracy, which is not true aristocracy. It's like perceived competence by actually providing nice PowerPoint presentations to people who don't want to do the work themselves, and who don't need even to pay the McKinsey consultant because that will be done by the firm. It doesn't mean that some McKinsey consultants don't have value, but overall, they don't. It's a bullshit job. That's my private opinion. Anyhow, so strategy, going back to it, how to win. So let's say you want to build a company that makes more than 100 billion in revenue. So 100 billion in revenue, so 1 billion is 1,000 million, okay? 100 billion is 100,000 million. It's a lot of money. In fact, it's such a huge amount that you can even survive with 1% profit margin in terms of earning before interest and taxes. Overall, I think it's more important to figure out why you want that, not how you get there. Because why you want that will make it happen that you'll be able to survive within 20, 30 years. And I think that this is first and foremost the motivation that drives such a company, the founding team. No matter which gender they are, I don't care if the person identifies as a machine, it can identify a machine as long as the motivation is set right? And there's a cohesiveness between the motivation felt from the founders by their customer groups, which are mostly, because it's going to be a platform approach, fun fact, it's never going to be a single-handed application just for one thing, right? It's going to be a platform, so that's felt by all stakeholders, such as a shareholder can profit, and that's also a very European concept. And stakeholder, I mean your teammates in terms of colleagues, employees, right? As well as these are the internal direct stakeholders, and external stakeholders will be definitely customers, and these are all different types of customers that make your platform work, right? So the strategy in this regard is how can you combine all the different access to people, to knowledge, the time and the specialization that comes with the knowledge that you have, and deploy that creativity in a complementary skill set to have a huge leverage compared to other companies who do not have that, where everybody is just out for themselves, trying to build their CV or whatever people think nowadays when it comes to having a career. I personally think the only way that you can succeed is to understand what your unfair advantage is, and you stacking unfair advantage upon unfair advantage upon unfair advantage to really destroy. And if you're not really ready to destroy, to really even go so far as to the willingness to die for the cause that you have, going back to the motivation, you're not ready to build a $100 billion revenue company. There is a difference between Mark Zuckerberg and an average apprentice who did their apprenticeship, becoming, in Germany we say Dachdecker, which is a carpenter, right? There's a big difference between Mark Zuckerberg and the carpenter. The Mark Zuckerberg is really willing to die for Facebook to win, right? The carpenter, not so much. And I think that's a huge difference between American companies and generally other companies. The people who start these companies are willing to put their head on the line and their ass, and also the head and ass of their parents, children, and wife. That type of commitment produces a pressure that is eventually triggering the masculine perspective of protection, and that's why also like most of these strategies apply mainly to men, because if I'm not a woman, I can't talk about how to build $100 billion revenue company as a woman. You need to ask the former co-founder of Amazon, the ex-wife of Jeff Bezos, because she did that. I'm not her, and it's probably the only woman who did that the last 100 years. It's the only one, and there's a reason for it, right? So you need to ask her. But on the male perspective, on the male psychology perspective, if you're a bunch of dudes, the best way to do that is to put your whole heritage, legacy on the line and try to defend it by figuring out by any means possible how to outcompete the competition, by knowing who you are, where you want to go, why you do what you do, because that's the base foundation to the core strategy. And everything else down the line is a combination about your skill set and opportunities given. So and I'm coming around again with the Pareto principle, which 20% of the skill set that you have will provide for the maximization of the 80% of opportunities that you get. It's a very important thing. So, for example, all of our co-founders, we are all Ausländer, as we say in German. So we are all foreigners. We have Nigerian, Romanian, German. I myself am German, Prussian from my mother's side, but I also have a Moroccan passport because I got adopted in Morocco. So we are all Ausländer, as we say. So that gives us a huge perspective on how business is done in other countries. So the average German person in his backdoor village with 3,000 people, that person is not capable to grasp how the world works. It's just how it is. In a globalized system, you need to understand how business is done globally. Otherwise, you're not going to probably be able to build out a platform that suits most people in the world who will use that platform. If you're a village person in Nigeria, you're probably more likely to win than a village person in Germany. Why? Because Nigeria has 250 million inhabitants, median age is 18 years old, everybody is happy to, try out something new, and everybody else in Germany, in a 3,000 person village, right? That person most likely is going to be median age 47, and that person will have responsibilities, wife, kids and stuff, and that person will not have a common home market to sell its service to and even to test its service at scale. If you're a Nigerian person or an Indian person, you have the opportunity, like in the US, to serve your own home market first and to become a billionaire through it. So that's not possible in the West because of the issues that is happening. And then elderly people are running by and saying, oh, I haven't seen that. Right, and that's literally what just happened. But I think that is a way to think differently about business that makes US successful and Europeans not. Simply as that. And if we want to survive as Europeans, we need to stack upon our unfair advantages and understand them in teams to really build out these companies, right? So let's talk about companies who achieved more than $100 billion in sales and that are still privately owned. So I have two companies for you, and these are very well known. Even the American people know them. These are Aldi, which is Aldi Group, Aldi North and South, and Lidl, Schwarzgruppe. So Schwarzgruppe is a platform. Schwarzgruppe doesn't make most of their money with fucking food sales. They make their money also with recycling and with IT and data centers and logistics. Stuff that you didn't understand before looking into that business. So I think that's a huge advantage if you think about your unfair advantages and you stack them up together and you figure out, as we would say, the critical path to go from the shortest, from 0 to 100 billion, in terms of that there is like the critical path means the path where every step needs to be done and executed through without having a buffer to get there the shortest way possible. And most likely, it's not going to be through capital from outside. It's going to be from people who believe in your business because they need your solution. Why it's not going to be from capital outside? Well, I tell you what, it's 12 times more likely to make it as an entrepreneur by acquiring customers just regular people who have a problem, you solve the problem for them, than to raise the money. Raising money happens 0.0005% of the time. Getting customers and acquiring the knowledge how to serve customers, it's much more likely than to raise capital. And most likely, if you raise capital, you don't have the skill set to budget it correctly. So you're going to end out burning money that you don't own yourself, that has been given to you, and then you lose the trust by your investors if you're not able to, scale down the spend. But if you have customers and you calculate and that's the next point in strategy, you need to have good brute profit margins, right? If you calculate according to your own budget that you set yourself, you learn how to, make the buck and save the buck and spend the buck where you get the biggest bang for the buck. It's so simple. Aldi and Lidl did not run on venture capital. These companies are valued, if you were to put it on stock market today, easygoing 3 times their earnings. 3 times. So in this case, it would be easygoing $300-400 billion companies. 2 of them, not very far from each other. And actually, they're German people at heart, right? It's like 2 brothers, and the other guy was basically the guy who copied them. It's like a bit of McDonald's and Burger King. The difference between Lidl and Aldi is that Lidl has some type of assortment, which is big brands like PepsiCo and Coca-Cola and stuff, and Aldi has had a different strategy because they were very low cost. They figured out that 60 or 70% of the products bought are low involvement products, or products which nobody cares about the brand, and they wanted to produce the best quality possible and provide them to the masses, especially after the war where everybody was broke. So and they figured out in order to do that they need to backward integrate, so actually also owning the brands they sell in their store that make them immediately profitable, because they were able to control the purchasing prices down to the ingredients that they put in the tomato sauce. So it's a pretty German thing, right? To think like that, to minimize cost, to optimize for success. And that's going down also to your strategy. If you're going to build these kind of companies, most likely you're not going to build them through raising capital. You're probably going to build them through acquiring customers, and what else? Having a fucking long time frame. Don't think in a 5-year time frame. Think in a 20 to 30-year time frame. The likelihood to win in that time frame is extremely high. You need your 6, 7, 8 years to build up competence and the network and to support what you want to do. Then you need the other 10 years to scale it, and then you need a maturity phase, which is the last 12 years on top of it. Right? These are 30 years. And yeah, if you think about that way, the way to win is also to build something big by building a big foundation, right? So if you want to make a quick bag on the buck, building a big foundation can suck so hard, right? Because you're going to be literally building out the foundation for 8, 9, 10 years. It's like building a super tall skyscraper. Let's say Burj Al Khalifa or anyone's on the Billionaires Row, until these projects are finished. Decades pass, right? So I think one of the first skyscrapers on Billionaires Row started 2024, built and finished I think a couple of years ago. And we are 2025 now, 2014. So 2014 they started, 2020 they got launched, something like this. So it's a huge amount of time, it's a huge amount of investment, capital, labor, all the negotiation that needs to take place to get something off the ground, quite literally. And that's something most people are not willing to put into work, right? Because whatever, they feel, oh, I would have lost that much time if that fails, and what others think of me, and blah blah blah. The truth is, even if you were to fail, you tried something huge, and you have then all the network and the knowledge that you need to build something different later, even though it might not be that big. But you have all the network to the venture capitalists, to the private equity houses. You know how M&A deals are made. You know a lot of stuff that you didn't know starting out. So you can't really fail. You can fail in the initial idea, but you can't fail very much in building relationships, becoming friends with people who are capable of doing whatever they are into doing, and together, even if your core project fails, you're still able to provide value because you know them as friends. These are your friends. That's a new network of people that you hang around because that's a friends. Like not like for like or help for help, like most people think about networking. It's really just becoming friends with a bunch of people who are trying to move and shake a bit, and that achieved something in their life because they gained agency in a specific industry because they're good at it, they're good at building organization that maintain that initial drive. And so going back to what I was talking about, motivation, the values is also very important. You know, how can you provide a value system that's based on the core ideals of the team that founded a business in order to use it as a filter mechanism who can join later on. I think these are the core ingredients to strategy, and that's strategy level 0, right? So I think the scenery on strategy will be expanded during the course of the channel in all different types of versions until version 100. But the baseline is more or less what I tried to teach you here. And you know, like, share, subscribe if you really want to know more about it. If you find the topics interesting, I've tried to post every day one video, short video, 15 minutes or something, and let's see if with the feedback from your side, I could nail even some of these topics which we as a team are executing. By the way, if you are in this city, Saarbrücken, check out this nice cafe where I'm at. It's called Komame. Owner is a very brilliant guy, and I'll put the link in the description. Peace out. You're Konstantin from Kukuroo. Greets to my co-founders as always, Dionysus, Dimitri 1 and Dimitri 2. You guys know who you are, as well as Gabriel and Patrick. Yeah, greets to our colleagues and partners. Stay healthy, guys, and have a great Pentecost. It's the 7th of June, 2025. And Pentecost is ahead of us. Peace.